March 29th, 2022, administrative meeting of the Bernalillo County Commissioners to order. Hopefully everyone's doing well, having a good night. We'll have a moment of silence followed by the Pledge of Allegiance led by our Vice Chair Benson. Thank you, Commissioner Benson. Madam County Manager, are there any changes or additions to this evening's agenda?
Madam Chair, good evening, and Commissioners, there are no changes or additions to the agenda.
Thank you. And we'll jump right into proclamations. Commissioner Quesada has a proclamation.
Thank you, Madam Chair. It is my pleasure to read this proclamation this evening. This is actually an acknowledgement, the Bernalillo County Board of Commissioners, and it's for Ashley Gutierrez. Hi, Ashley. Good evening.
Hi.
So I will read it, and then we'll let you say a few words, if that's okay.
Sounds good.
All right. So, Ashley Gutierrez, Parks and Recreation and Open Space. Ashley Gutierrez has worked for Bernalillo County as a sports coordinator with PROS, the Parks, Recreation, and Open Space Department, since 2018. Ashley started organizing Adult USSSA, United States Specialty Sports Association, sanctioned flag football leagues, softball leagues, and tournaments while employed with the city of Rio Rancho. From 2010 to 2018, she now coordinates both adult softball and youth and adult basketball leagues with Bernalillo County PROS Department since 2018 to today. Ashley has shared her sports programming knowledge and expertise that she has gained over the last 12 years of service with the New Mexico USSSA, with participants as both staff and mentor to others. And on February 6, 2022, Ashley was inducted into the New Mexico USSA Hall of Fame and recognized in a Hall of Fame banquet held in Las Cruces, New Mexico. BernCo is honored to have such a valued employee being honored with an association such as the NMUSSSA. Bernalillo County recognizes and applauds Ashley Gutierrez for her exceptional achievements and her outstanding contribution serving on the New Mexico USSSA while also representing the Bernalillo County PROS Department. Congratulations.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Appreciate it. Yeah, it was quite an honor. I was definitely the youngest director ever there when I first started. I was 22, I believe. So I definitely made a few of the inductees that have been previously in there feel a little bit old. But I appreciate the recognition. Thank you so much. Thank you.
We're going to do this again. Okay. Here we go. 3, 2, 1. Let's try it. Oh, something wrong with my flash. Sorry about that. It is on. I don't know why the flash isn't working though. There we go. 3, 2, 1. One more because, get a picture. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you, Ashley. What a great recognition. Public comment. Is there anyone signed up for public comment?
We have one signed up.
Awesome. Please call the first person.
Mr. Don Schrader, if you make your way down to the podium, you'll have 2 minutes to speak. Thank you.
Millions of soldiers in the United States, Russia, other nations believe God wants them to kill other human beings when their government tells them to. The U.S. military hires chaplains to assure soldiers God approves murder in war. I do not pledge allegiance to the U.S. flag or to any nation's flag. My country is the whole world. All people are my sisters and brothers. I have paid no federal income tax, not one damn bloody penny, for 43 years. Almost half of federal income tax goes for U.S. wars, past, present, future. I oppose all wars. So for me to pay federal income tax, to turn young men and women into professional hired killers, to murder on command with no conscience, would be more evil than being a soldier myself. The United States has murdered many millions of moms, dads, kids in El Salvador, Guatemala, Vietnam, Laos, Cambodia, Iraq, Afghanistan, and many more nations. April 4th, 1967, Prophet Martin Luther King Jr. damned the Vietnam War. King damned the U.S. mass murder of people in Vietnam. King said, "The greatest purveyor of violence in the world today is my own government." Sadly, still true now, 55 years later. Not with my silence, not with my money.
Thank you, Mr. Schroeder. We're moving on to boards and commission appointments, and we have an exciting appointment with Commissioner Piscotti.
Thank you very much. This appointment is for Estancia Basin Water Planning Committee reappointment for Dan McGregor. And Dan McGregor, can you just wave or stand or thank you? I think at first I was surprised to see you in the audience today because I know you work so hard and I'm like, wow, he's here tonight. But then I thought, I'm not surprised at all because one thing I know about you is that you always show up. You always show up for the right things when it comes to our water throughout the county, throughout the region. And so I am proud to make a motion to approve your reappointment to the Estancia Basin Water Planning Committee.
Second.
Thank you.
All in favor? Aye. Any opposition? Congratulations. Thank you for your service. Awesome. So now we move to approval of minutes. I move to approve the March 15th, 2022 administrative meeting minutes. Can I have a second?
Second.
Thank you. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Great. Meeting minutes approved. Approval of consent agenda. Madam Clerk, please provide resolution numbers for items 8A, 8C, 8D, E, K, L, M, N, O. I move, please provide resolution numbers.
All those numbers. Yes, ma'am. 8A, AR 2022-25. C is AR 2022-26. D as in David is AR 2022-27. E as in Every is 2022-28. K is 2022-29. L is AR 2022-30. M is 2022-31. N is AR 2022-32. O is AR 2022-33. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Commissioner Clerk. I move to approve the consent agenda.
Second.
Thank you. Any opposition? Awesome. Moving forward.
Madam Chair, for the record, if we can just have the vote called.
Yes, thank you, Madam, or can all in favor say aye?
Aye.
Aye. Any in opposition? Thank you. Adoption of resolution for items 9. Madam Clerk, please provide resolution numbers for items 9A and B.
9A is AR 2022-34. B is AR 2022-35.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. So our first resolution is sponsored by Commissioner Quesada, opposing truck size or weight increases.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Yeah, the resolution pretty much speaks for itself. If you have questions, I'll do my best to answer them. But basically, you know, as you know, a big part of my district falls in the state. Like, so Rio Bravo, some of these major roads they go through the state, so those are state roads. And as you know, it takes about 20 years for them to go back and fix them. So yeah, they come in every 20 years. And then a lot of the roads that come in and out within the county, you know, it takes a minute to get back to those roads as well. And so with them trying to increase, you know, the distance or the size of the trucks, the weight of the trucks, it really causes havoc on the roads in this district. And so I just thought I would bring something up for us to kind of stand, you know, strong about you know, the truck size, the truck weight, and really basically trying to prolong the life of the roads within my district anyway. And I'm sure there's probably other parts of your all's districts that also will probably be affected if that gets increased.
Thank you, Commissioner Quesada. Any discussion?
So I move for approval.
Second.
Okay, thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposition? Thank you. Passes unanimously. And I believe we have Mr. Clay Campbell to present our 2022 federal legislative policy priorities.
Good evening, Commissioners. My name is Clay Campbell. I'm the Chief of Staff to the County Manager, and this year we have our federal resolution for 2022 before you tonight with 2 motions. The development of this resolution comes from staff, specifically from the Behavioral Health Initiative, the Department of Behavioral Health Services, ABC Community School Partnership, as well as Public Works to help articulate the items that are in the resolution this year. And the main content revolves around 4 programmatic areas that Bernalillo County has. The first is behavioral health, youth, medication-assisted treatment, and homelessness. The second one is ABC Community School Partnership and school-based health centers. The third is criminal justice and adult detention reform. And the fourth is surface transportation. And so we use this resolution to inform the New Mexico congressional delegation of issues and items of concern that also has a nexus relative to programmatic funding opportunities from the federal government and from agencies such as the Department of Justice, SAMHSA, and the Departments of Transportation and Housing and Urban Development. So this year, in addition to the first motion to just approve the resolution, there's a second motion asking you all to formally and explicitly prioritize 3 requests that we want to make and submit as earmark requests for congressionally directed, district-directed spending, similar to what you all have for your commission district-directed funding. And there's a good opportunity, I think. We have 3 strong projects for earmark submittals, and we request respectfully that the first one be for mobile school-based health centers. That's a shared priority between the ABC Community School Partnership and Behavioral Health Initiative, and they've been working together on that. The second priority we're proposing is surface transportation improvements to Atrisco Vista Boulevard. And then the third priority we're seeking is supplemental funding for the Law Enforcement Assisted Diversion Program. All of these earmarked applications are due around April 10th to the congressional offices. subject to your approval, and we will enter them into the portals of Representative Stansberry, Senator Heinrich, and Senator Lujan. And in each one, we need to indicate what our priorities are. So we want the priorities to be the same with all three congressmen that we submit these to. I stand for any questions you may have.
Thank you, Mr. Campbell. I know I have some questions. Any other discussion or questions? I know, thank you for meeting with me the other day and giving I just wanted to make sure that, as we had talked about the other day, that the number 3 it isn't cornering us just to that model of the LEAD program, but more the broader law enforcement.
Madam Chair, the request is for law enforcement assisted diversion, and what the Department of Behavioral Health Services is asking for is to continue the grant funding that they have in effect right now that expires in 2023, which is for LEAD. But I totally understand where you're coming from, and so I think we do have some time set up with Margarita Chavez Sanchez to talk about what are some non-law enforcement LEAD-like alternatives that we could explore. But this one is very much explicitly geared toward LEAD, and again would replace a grant that is in place now that expires in September of 2023.
Okay, thank you. And more importantly, I just want to have that evaluative conversation around, what's the, how is LEAD doing? And the current grant we have. So, but that was the only question. Any other discussion? Great.
Madam Chair?
Yes, Commissioner.
I mean, I just have a comment, thank you for making some of these priorities I think are huge. Some of the things that we've been working on for a long time. School-based health centers is something that's been a priority for the commission. They've always been supportive of how we move that forward, and we think the mobile units are going to be a huge impact. And thank you for not forgetting that, because we really truly believe that's going to be a game changer. Going down the line. So I just wanted to thank you for not forgetting that and putting that in there. So that's just my 2 cents. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you. I meant to mention that Margarita always talks about how this was day one Commissioner Quesada's dream to have mobile units. So, and I'm very excited about them as well. Thank you. I move to a motion to approve the 2022 federal legislative policy priorities.
Second.
Thank you, Commissioner Quesada. All in favor, please say aye.
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 Aye. Any opposition? Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, moving to approvals, item 10 on the agenda. We have the Behavioral Health Initiative, Tiny Home Village Proposal for Funding. We have Charlie Verbla and Michael Barndauler and Carolyn Chavez. Excited to hear this.
Good evening, Madam Chair, members of the Commission. Let me just say, first of all, in the past year and a half of the pandemic, I've had the opportunity of meeting all of you except Commissioner Benton on Zoom. And it's great to actually see you in person and to actually be here in your new space, in your lovely space. So thank you for having us tonight. I am here to introduce the request for $500,000 for the Tiny Home Village program. As we all know, our community is currently undergoing significant issues in housing, lack of housing, and solutions for shelters. The numbers are staggering, and the people that are homeless in our community. One component, the solution to this crisis, is providing more transitional housing options in the housing continuum, tiny home villages being one of those. The services that we provide there are designed to assist residents to achieve success in and satisfaction with community living and propel them into a more stable and sustainable living situation. The target population, single adults, couples aged 18 or older, includes individuals who are homeless, precariously housed, who have experienced behavioral health challenges, substance use disorders, or severe mental illness. The Tiny Home Village campus has been completed. At this time, there are 4 residents. However, to grow the number of people being served and to provide the effective case management services that they need, the village needs long-term sustained funding for staffing and behavioral health support services. To accommodate this need, we are recommending the Bernalillo County Behavioral Health Initiative provide $500,000 at a recurring annual for the implementation of the Tiny Home Village as outlined in the proposal, which I assume you've seen. This proposal has been vetted by my committee, and I'm the chair of the Housing Subcommittee and the vice chair of the steering committee. It's gone through the intervention and harm reduction subcommittees as well as the steering committee, And as most of you know, the ABCGC and APS meeting last week where we had some robust conversation on this very topic, which was a great conversation. As I just want to add, as I said last week, this is critical to our community. Transitional housing to get people off the street, regardless of their situation when they enter the house, into the village. And this has been the conversation. What's the admission criteria? And all these committee meetings have really helped define where we're going to go with this. And it is necessary to have, and once people are housed, their ability to turn their lives around and move on to the next level of services is absolutely critical. So with that, we have the VHI Director Verplu here. I know Carolyn Chavez is here, and so we stand for questions at this point. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Barndollar. And any questions from the commission?
Madam Chair, I don't have any questions. I'd just like to make some comments, please.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. First of all, thank you so much. It's so good to see you in person. And I did appreciate the presentation at the ABCGC plus APS on Thursday. Thank you, County Manager Julie, for also being there and answering some questions. I've always supported the tiny homes. Even before I was elected, there was a meeting in my district in Fort Hills, which was quite crowded and quite contentious. And I really advocated for the tiny home villages. I thought it was a very innovative thing to do. And so when the location was picked and I got to watch it, I thought it was, amazing and beautiful. And the partnerships with the American Indian Center and, of course, with the Southwest Carpenters Union, the apprentices supplying all that labor for free to build the tiny homes, I thought was just amazing. And so it's a beautiful facility. And I really do want to see it fully utilized. I know there's only 4 residents there now, and it has such a potential. And so I appreciate, Charlie, I spoke with you, I guess it was just yesterday, and you answered all of my questions. And you talked about, the transparency, and that because this is money that's actually being moved from one BHI project, the community engagement teams, to tiny home villages, that you didn't need to get commission approval, and yet you wanted to be very transparent about it. So I appreciate that. I understand, why that money is needed, because my analogy is it's like getting a puppy. Like, everybody loves the puppy and it's beautiful. And then you need to take care of the puppy. So this money is to take care of the operations and bring more people in and give them the services they need. Some things that I would just like to say in this public forum is that I really hope that you do work with the behavioral health services, the care campus, and the supportive aftercare unit, because those people are looking to transition out of the care campus, and they have case management. They're in the pipeline, and I think that tiny homes would be a perfect next step. The other thing I want to mention is that this money, this $500,000, is coming from our community engagement teams, which I really like. It's, I think, the equivalent of the city of Albuquerque's community safety teams, which I know people in Albuquerque are using. Those teams are growing. I went to a neighborhood association meeting last week, and they said that they really call those teams in the city of Albuquerque. And a part of me is like, well, maybe we could just give money to the Albuquerque community safety teams. But I'm not going to say that, because our community engagement teams are better, because they cover the entire county, including a huge portion of my district and Commissioner Quesada's district in unincorporated Bernalillo County, as well as other commissioners. And also our community engagement teams allow for follow-up, case management follow-up, whereas the city teams don't do that. They're sort of one and done. Here's some resources. So I look forward to continuing robust discussion, and I know part of that discussion at Thursday's meeting was about the myth that behavioral health is sitting on a ton of money. And County Manager, I'm glad you talked about how it was actually earmarked for the Crisis Triage Center, and how maybe we can, take a little bit and put it into other places. I would recommend paying our community engagement team providers more money. It's a hard job, and I want to attract people into that so we can really build that program as well as other programs. I think our behavioral health providers are amazing and deserve to be compensated for their work. So I understand why this money is needed, and so I'll support this, as I've always supported tiny homes. So thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Piscotti. Commissioner Quesada.
Thank you, Madam Chair. If we don't have the services right, if we don't follow through with sustainability, then why do we do it? Because it doesn't really affect anybody, and it really, then it becomes a waste of taxpayer dollars. APS, I know they have a big job ahead of them, but that's one of the big problems that happens through education when they create programs and they put them in place, but then they don't have no money behind it. There's no sustainability. And then we would get like updates on how great the program was and how good it was really doing, but it's no longer in existence because we didn't put the money behind it to sustain it, and we put money other places, and we're trying other things, and the things that were working fell through the cracks, and they're trying all these other things. And so if you don't have the sustainability, if you don't have the services, then we might as well just give them a 10. Because right now that's what the tiny home village is if it doesn't have the services and the follow-up to what's the purpose of the tiny home village. Like I said, just give them a tent, let them hang out on the street, because that's the results you're going to get. I'm hoping that, that this is, what it's supposed to be, and that at the end of the day, that, the community will see that we did make the right choice and we're doing the right things. But we won't know that. We won't know that until we take the risk and we give the money and make sure that it's sustainable and that it's a model of care that people are ready to do. And of course, each thing that we build is a different step into treatment and to getting yourself, back into society as functional as you possibly can. And so they all kind of do work within each other. And I agree, it's great to go from one to the other, to the other, to the other. So we have the whole gamut to spread across the behavioral health spectrum. So with that being said, definitely I have to support sustainability and, and again, ABC, GC plus APS, we're going to be monitoring it and we're going to make sure that it's doing what it's supposed to be doing. And, but we won't be able to know that if we don't have the services in place and if we're not doing the work that needs to be done. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Commissioner Quesada. Commissioner O'Malley.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I am hopeful that this program will succeed. We, as you know, many of you know, I was, basically spearheaded this. I guess I have more of a head for development than I do probably for actually programming. But I think that we underestimated early on what was required to support folks, 40 people at the kind of level that they need the support of. We are talking about people who've been traumatized for some time, and it's not a simple thing. And we have people in all different circumstances. That's one thing that I've learned. But I don't have any expertise in this field, and I appreciate that. After we were struggling in terms of how to, getting folks in there, and it was, there's nobody to blame. I think this is all new to all of us. I spoke with County Manager Baca, and it's just like, we've got to just really step it up. Well, the county's got to start to step it up and really see what it is that we need to make this successful. And so I want to thank her. And I know Enrico, Shirley, she put a team together to really look at this, and including, I know Charlie's ahead of it, and And we have Ms. Chavez there, who's now the director, and taking the time to look at the different elements. In particular, they did take a hard look at the process or our procedures or our policies around, allowing people to enter into it. I want, to assure the community, I think sometimes, given the discussion we had at ABCGC, there were some comments about, we really want to make sure that it's perceived as safe and secure and that the community around there feels safe and secure. And that was something that, as part of this, building this, is that we had a lot of conversations with that surrounding community. I did. So I remember going to many, many meetings in that area. This is, and I also want to thank, and I can't leave her out, is Commissioner Barboa. She also got in there. This is her district, and she's been meeting with the group. I sort of stepped back, and she's been meeting with Charlie and others to really look at policies, and she has much more experience in that area. And I also want to thank you very much, Commissioner Barboa, for doing that. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. And it's been an honor, and I am grateful that the tiny home village is in my district. I walked into this beautiful space already developed, and now I get to bring my strengths, and thankful to the leadership of all three of you and your teams just for making that room available. I'm excited about the potential, and I think we have so many smart people. People have done other types of transitional programming and that are really invested in making this a successful project. And thank you for listening and calling in those folks. And last time I'd say, yes, we have such great need, and we're taking all these different approaches, and this is one of many, and we need to be taking all those approaches to even make a dent, right? So thank you for your leadership. And is there something to approve? Oh yeah, I move to approve Tiny Home Village proposal for funding. If there's
Madam Chair, I'd like to.
Oh yes, any other discussion?
Further discussion. First, thank you all for all the time and effort you've put into this. I question the utilization of this money, though. I've toured the property. It is beautiful. I agree with everybody here. It's beautiful. And there's 4 people living in it. And we've got plenty of homeless people that could benefit from its intended use, right? So we've got the supply, but we don't have the demand. So we're now, and we've invested a lot of time and money into this. And how many residents would the tiny village hold?
Chair, Commissioner Benson, it will hold 30 clients, and then if we have couples in there, it could hold up to 40.
Okay, so let's say 40. So we've already spent a small fortune on potentially 40 residents, pulling 40 people off the street, which I think we need to pull people off the street. I've got a heart for homeless people. Very close personal experience with homelessness. But now we're talking about adding another $500,000 a year to this project, and it feels like throwing good money after bad. And it's kind of a can of worms. And the problem is we've got this beautiful facility now that's empty because we don't have it. We don't have the demand. We don't have homeless people that are willing to do what it takes to get in there because of their own personal struggles, which are real. I'm not saying they're not real, but I feel like we're trying to fit a round peg into a square hole, and it's a can of worms. And every time we tackle one problem, it's a can of worms, and there's another worm underneath it. It's like Commissioner Quesada's construction project. There's always problems. You solve one problem, you find 3 more problems. This $500,000 a year won't be the last, and it's not going to meet the needs. So I think there's better uses for $500,000 a year that we have in our county. I think there's departments that could use that money. I absolutely commend county manager for for not asking for more money, but instead just taking it from another department that's kind of related and it works for. I also recognize the problem. We've got this beautiful property that's empty, that's not being utilized. So it's a problem. I just don't think this is the solution. There's other organizations. What if we rented out the property? And then it's actually a source of income for the county instead of a mushrooming expense. And that's what this is going to become. It already is. It's already a mushrooming expense. Meanwhile, we're already in discussions for building a sanctioned encampment, which I've voiced my opposition to before as well. We're enabling homelessness. We're not making progress. Our homeless numbers are growing. Meanwhile, the folks that are paying their taxes to provide these resources are moving. We're not growing. We're not growing the way our surrounding states are growing because we're not encouraging that type of growth. We're encouraging homelessness growth by enabling it and sanctioning it and protecting it and saying that's okay and let's lower standards and let's throw more money at it. But this is not the way. And this won't be the last request for additional resources. It's not going to be. If you've worked with homelessness and mental health and drug addiction, you can't just throw money at it. And there has to be on the part of these residents' position, there's got to be initiative on their part. We're forcing a solution to the tiny home village. We're not forcing a solution to the homelessness problem. We're trying to figure out how to solve the tiny home problem that we have where it's empty. And so now we're coming up with all these ideas to solve it. It's not going to solve it. We might be able to get more people in there, but it's not going to solve the drug problem we have here, the crime problem, the homelessness problem, the theft, and all the crime associated with it. This isn't going to solve it. So, yeah, and Commissioner Quezada said that if we don't do this, they might as well have a tent. They have tents all over the place. There's tents blowing around down the freeway. There's tents everywhere. Why aren't they trying to get into this beautiful location? It's beautiful, right? It's not because we don't have the $500,000 additional budget there. That's not why it's empty. So this isn't fiscally responsible, and yeah, we're fooling ourselves that we think this is going to solve a problem. Meanwhile, there's still initiative to build more sanctioned encampments. And I ask for support to stop encouraging homelessness. I can't. I've only got one vote, so yeah, I can't support this. But I do want to say we've got a problem. We've got this beautiful building, and the county staff is great in terms of problem solving. To utilize, that's their job, is to run a good county with the resources they have, and county manager is doing that the best way she can, with good intention. It looks great. Let's provide a roof and shelter and social workers, but it's not going to work. So yeah, I'd rather encourage more business and more growth and more health instead of encouraging more and more homelessness. So my vote is no on this.
Thank you. Commissioner Quesada.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Yeah, I get those points, and I think for me it's a matter of we got to meet them where they are. We have so many hoops to jump through. You have to be 30 days sober to even get in the tiny home village, and we're talking about drug addiction. And so if people don't have that in their family, have never dealt with that, that's almost impossible. And I get it, right? And I understand your frustration because we're not doing what we're asking to do now. And that's why it's not working, because we're not meeting them where their addiction is. We expect them to be us, and they can't be us, and they won't be us for many different factors, right? It's like education. Every child's different. It's hard to meet, it's hard to meet that needs as a blanket. And I understand your frustration, and he's right. Right? He's right on a lot of points. He's right on our crime. He's right on the way the city looks. He's right on all those points. And so my idea is, how do I get that? How do I change that for him as a business owner? How do I go get them, and how do we entice them to come? And when I started looking at the policies, Commissioner, I was like, no, nobody can even do that. I mean, I can't even do that. If they told me I can't have a beer for 30 days, and I'm like, well, that would be hard for me to do. Not that I'm an alcoholic, not that I'm anything, but it's really hard for me to go 30 days without, having a beer with my buddy or with somebody on the weekend. And these are drug addicts. These are people who have been struggling and fighting for a long time. And when I say this, Commissioner, and I know some of the people at the ABCGC meeting was thinking more like, well, I'm just going to open an animal house and I'm just going to let them have a shooting gallery and let them do whatever they want. That's not what I'm trying to say. I'm trying to say, how do we meet them to where they're at? How do we be able to adjust them and get them on the right track and get them moving in that direction? Because you're right, we haven't done that. What we're doing today is not working, and I 100% agree with you. So how do we fix it? What are the steps that we need to do? You're right. We throw a lot of money at education. We throw a lot of money at everything. But not everything we do up here is that way, right? So the Route 66 Visitor Center is a beautiful new building, which is going to provide business opportunities for people. It's going to have an event center. It's going to have, pull traffic off the freeway. It's going to go down Central. Not all we do in the commission is just this, right? This is just a piece that gets the press. When I did the visitor center, Commissioner, they bashed me and told me I was a boondoggle and I'm wasting everybody's money and how dare me do that, right? And I'm like, well, I'm trying to do what we said we were going to do, right? Just create opportunity, create community, create business opportunities, small business opportunities. But even then, they call that a boondoggle, right? So it's really hard to convince the press. I'm just going to say the press, and I'm just going to leave it as a blanket. I'm not going to call out who press, just the press. And they don't really do that type of work either. Just like us, we're trying to figure it out too. I'm an entertainer that did social work with gang intervention. You're a business owner, but we both come from the same place. So, what people have to understand is me and you see eye to eye because we come from the same place. And people don't know that about you. But I agree with you on half of it, and the other half tells me, what do I got to do to try to get us to that point? Because if we don't do anything, there's no results. We're going to get the same results. If we do the same thing we're doing, I agree with you, we're going to get these same darn results, and I'm frustrated with you. So the reason why I want to fund it, the reason why I want to relax some of the rules, I don't want to make it a party. So I'm not opening an animal house here. We don't want to do that, Commissioner. We want to start trying to figure out how do we navigate it, how do we get closer to that? Because for me, in the morning, if I saved one person, and that's what I used to say when I did gang intervention, man, because I knew I couldn't save them all. I wanted them all. I couldn't save them all. If I didn't get one of them, Commissioner, then I did something. Then my time was worth something. And I just can't believe that out of all those people, we haven't helped some of them. There's just so many, Commissioner. I get your frustration. It looks like we're not doing anything. I get that. And I want to help change that. And I want to partner with you to help change that. So I'm going to support it. I know you're not, but I think me and you should meet. And then let's figure out, let's look at these rules together. Let's look at what we're willing to compromise to try to meet these people halfway and not give them a tent. Let's give them an opportunity. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Commissioner. Yes, Commissioner Benson.
Thank you, Commissioner Quesada. And just for the record, I also want to say I'm not questioning anybody's intentions here. I think everybody has the intention to help our community, help homeless people, be good stewards. But intentions, and I've learned the hard way, the path to hell is paved with good intentions, and intentions, we've got to put those aside. one of my Baskin Robbins stores, we have, it's a sheltered cover, and we've got homeless people sleeping there every night. So I talk to them all the time. And it's not even, not having a beer for 30 days. And I'm with you. You know where I've come from. And in terms of addiction, I'm not saying it's easy, but I am saying we're forcing a round peg in a square hole. We're trying to make tiny homes work. I just want to be clear on that. We're trying to make tiny homes work because it's not working. And throwing good money after this isn't going to make it work. It's just not. But there are organizations that have had good success. And yes, if we can save one person, that would be wonderful. But there's also, well, how much do we spend to save one person versus can we spend the same amount of money and save 400 people? And that's what I'm trying to say is there a better path? Like Endorphin Power. I know their facilities need help. What if we rented to them? I'm trying to think outside the box. What we've been pursuing this and it's not working. Meanwhile, we're also pursuing more tents for homeless people. So instead of continuing this path, which isn't working, our homeless population is growing. And is it growing because we're attracting homeless people because we incentivize it? Or is it growing because the drug problem is just insane here and drug dealers are arrested and they're put out in the streets the next day? We're incentivizing the wrong things. We're not incentivizing hard work, responsibility, being responsible taxpayers, being responsible members of our community. We're saying, all right, everybody who does all that, great. We don't want to hear you. We want your tax money, and we're going to spend it and support all the crime and destruction in our beautiful city. And it's not the city I grew up in. Pastor Joanne Landry, bless her heart, she's a wonderful person. We could rent it out to her. She'd figure a way to pay this rent, and she'd have it full. And it wouldn't be our responsibility to check the boxes. And then it would actually be a resource to the community, and then maybe a potential income source. Not that we're in it to make money through rent, but this is going to be a drain. And those are just two nonprofits I can think of. There's others. So, yeah, I think you know my intention. I am frustrated. So I assume I'll lose this vote. And Commissioner Quezada, I would love to meet with you and see what we can do to make this work without putting even more money, because this $500,000 isn't going to cover it. So, thank you.
I also have some comments, but go ahead, Charlie.
Okay,
Yes.
if I may, thank you,
Yes.
Chair. And Commissioner Benson, I just wanted to thank you so much for your comments. And it's really great to understand where you come from. And I feel like we're empathetic to the thoughts that you're expressing here tonight. Thank you, the other commissioners here who've been responding. And one thing I wanted to mention is that we're working with an evaluator who's going to evaluate the site, and they'll be real helpful in understanding the impact of this service and whether it's working, right, to get at your questions about whether it's going to be helpful to those who need it and whether it's really a worthwhile investment for our community and for the county. And so I want to put that out there, and I also have asked them to do a quick cost-benefit analysis for us to be able to look at what are the costs that some of these individuals might be stressing on other parts of the system, in the emergency room, in the jail, right? And what are those costs as associated to what are the costs that we're paying for the tiny home village? And I think that's an important thing to consider here, that even if we don't pay for this service or we don't have this service, those costs are going to be seen and impacted in other parts of the system. So I wanted to mention that, and I also wanted to mention that been working with the director here, Carolyn Travis, and she's mentioned to me that we have just overflowing people coming in to ask for referrals into the tiny home village. So there's a lot of individuals who want to be there, and it was really on our part to hold back, take a minute, make sure we had the staffing there and the funding in place to be able to make sure that it was safe for everybody at the village, including our staff, right? We want to make sure everybody's safe and protected, including the clients. And then once we had that in place, we're going to fill up the tiny home village, and it's going to be a pilot. We're going to see how effective it is, right? And if at some point it's not working or if it's not effective, we can go a different route. But I like the idea that there's multiple ways that we need to approach this problem, and that this is one piece in the continuum of housing that we need to be able to support all the individuals. Because if someone has an unmet behavioral health need or unmet medical need, or maybe an unmet dental need, right, it's really difficult to be successful and get into an apartment, right, and be able to pay, right? So you meet people where they're at, you get them the services that they need, and then as they're there, you work with them to get to the next step and stabilize, right? And so you say it's 40 clients, but over time, they're transitioning through. So it's more than 40 clients, right? It's those individuals that are staying there, getting stable, moving along. And then people come from the SAC program or other programs in the community, can stay there, get stabilized, and move forward to the next step. So that's the vision, and I hope that you'll be along with this on the, optimistic that this is going to be successful. And if it's not, we'll try something different. But I think that's the intention here of our group. And thank you guys for listening. Thanks for your comments.
Thank you. And I just wanted to respond a little bit, and thank you all for standing there for this conversation. But I appreciate it too. You and I had some good conversations. I do I invite everybody to come to Homeless Coordinating Council, or I would love to meet with everybody around sort of the whole landscape. Because when we think about EPC is a place that has limitations on acceptance, and I love it. I love that it's sober living, and that people that are seeking and ready for that have that. I love that Albuquerque Healthcare for the Homeless provides certain services, and that the New Hope Works single site visit has a whole ecosystem of its own, right? But we are failing with this new approach, right? Because before there's many places that those folks with limitations. Now we're saying this is even a lower barrier for folks that haven't been able to maybe meet those needs into those other programs. And I guess just to, reality, right, that any of those programs, we fund those programs. We fund EPC, we fund Compassion Center. So, I'm not against a nonprofit running another, if that was in our evaluation, what we thought would be better, another nonprofit or another business to run the tiny home village. But, they come to us to seek funding anyway. So what's the big picture? And I just want to also just thank you, Charlie, for mentioning, right, because I was part in helping to get that wellness center open, the hotel that the county has. It's going to be done April, I think 8th is our last day. I want to evaluate that, right? But that 4 months, I think it was $5 million, right? Was that, or it was a lot of money. It was less. Don't quote me. But it was a lot of money, and I guess I just, a lot of money for a temporary, another temporary and maybe needed or maybe not needed. I don't think we're claiming that any of these are solutions to our large homelessness problem. So I hope, again, and I am very much for evaluations and continuing to check into what it means to keep evaluating and adjusting and to meet the needs of the folks we're trying to impact on the community. And last I'd say, right, is that I think all of us, I was surprised to be in ABCGC and hear so many of our elected officials that have direct experience with folks addicted to substances, living through homelessness, and it impacts all of us. And so we have to keep trying approaches and multiple approaches is what I would say. So you will have my support, and we will continue to evaluate and ask questions.
Madam Chair?
Yes,
just for clarification, so we've spent, or we will be spending $500,000 on that initiative.
Okay, I added in a couple extra zeros. 500,000, but that's for a short period of time. 500, 5 million. I'm a county commissioner. I just throw it out there. Just kidding. No, thank you for that clarity. But yeah, the cost at the ER, at our jails that are right now overwhelmed with folks who maybe don't need to be there, but could better be served with case management and otherwise. So thank you for standing there. Any other discussion, comments?
I just want to make a comment, and you guys can sit down because I don't have any questions. I know we've sort of tagged folks with this homeless, label, if you will. And we talk about homelessness, we talk about people homeless, and really it's about the poverty. They're poor. They're the poorest of the poor. I mean, if you've got a backpack and you're walking down the street with raggedy clothes, you pretty much don't have a whole lot. I can't stand in judgment for people like that. I can't. I mean, I feel like to do nothing is not an option. We have a lot of people that complain about things, right? And say, oh my God, this is a problem, this is a problem. It's like, okay, so what are your ideas around trying to improve it? Well, they might have some ideas, but it's not in their backyard. I don't want anything near my community. I don't want anything near my neighborhood. But yet they complain about people walking through the neighborhood. It is a shame that pretty much we have a shelter. We have some programs for transitional living, some. We have the tiny home village, and that's kind of it. And we're supposed to be able to handle, we're supposed to have the take care of all the homeless issues. It's been focused on the tiny home village. Like all of a sudden, you know, we've got to take care of the entire home, which is growing. Why is it growing? Why is it growing? Well, for one thing, big part is wages haven't kept up with the cost of housing. It's been the biggest gap we've ever seen ever, and it's getting worse. I was talking with some folks who got a letter from someone who works at the corrections and says, you know, my rent just going up from $1,200 to $1,800, and I make $20 an hour. How are you going to come up? How are you going to do that? What are you going to do? We not only have a crisis of people who have no place to stay that's safe, we have a crisis at the other end where we've got families, people who are working every day and can't afford rent. What do you think is going to happen to those folks? They're going to be homeless too. You know, I don't incentivizing homelessness. I mean, that's the first time I've ever heard anything like that. If we incentivize anything, it's usually businesses to help create jobs. That's what we're doing. What I think we are doing, and this is my approach, is about the approach from a sense of compassion for people who have nothing. Nothing. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner O'Malley. I move to approve the Tiny Home Village proposal for funding. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed?
No.
Thank you. Motion passes. Item 10B, American Rescue Plan Act Award Approvals of Projects. And thank you, Charlie and Mr. Barndaller and Ms. Chavez. And we have Shirley Reagan to introduce Denise Benavides and John Barney. Oh, Denise and John.
Good evening, Madam Chair. My name is Denise Benavides. I'm the Principal Financial Management Analyst for the Finance Division. The Swede Scholar Regional Recreation Complex at Mesa del Sol Phase 2 athletic fields was listed in the ARPA project plan approved on September 28th, 2021 administrative meeting for the staff to begin analysis. Based on the analysis that has been completed, the Bernalillo County ARPA core team is recommending in the first motion the approval of the ARPA funds in the amount not to exceed $2 million for the Swedes Scholar Regional Recreational Complex at Mesa del Sol Phase 2 athletic fields in accordance with expenditure category 5.08, which is clean water, water conservation. The funding will be used to construct critical clean water conservation elements for the project. It will detain and filter stormwater from the project area and adjacent areas through a series of bioswales and native planted detention ponds, thus becoming a model for green low impact design. This funding will provide approximately 21% of the Phase 2 overall project of $9.4 million. The second motion is to authorize the county manager to execute subsequent agreements and amendments for the project approved by the Board of County Commission as presented under ARPA. With me is John Barney, the planning manager from Parks and Rec, who will provide an overview of the project. Thank you, Ms. Benavides.
Good evening, Madam Chair, members of the Commission. I'm grateful to be here today to talk about our Mesa del Sol project, and I want to bring up a graphic if I could. I don't know how to. Also grateful to be up here for the first time ever, so in this new amazing space. So I'm looking up at you guys. And it's like, anyway, so but I'm just grateful to be here. So, and how does this work? not have my up? It's on the thumb drive. I can't bring it. The laptop is not on. So. My sketchbook's back there, but sure. I know. I can.
I think IT's coming.
Pardon me? Okay. Oh, thank you.
Thank you, IT.
Is it dead? It's coming up. Is it?
Turn on.
Let it come up. Okay. So do we need to change it out? So while we're waiting for the technology to get up, I just, on a personal note, I just wanted to, I'm grateful for you all's leadership, Madam Chair, members of the Commission on the Homeless issue. I think it is a really incredibly difficult issue. It is the biggest issue of our time, I think, at this point. And I just appreciate the willingness to have a conversation. Not that you all agree with how this is going to go down or how we're going to be able to assist in this. Or I think I'm blushing. Oh well. So. It's okay. I think we're on now. I hear something. Okay. Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the Commission. So yes, we would like to talk to you a little bit about our master plan for the Mesa del Sol Sports Complex and what this funding is going to go for. So this is the overall master plan that was approved through administrative amendment with the city of Albuquerque, because as some of you may or may not know, this facility is actually within the city limits. So as a number of our facilities, particularly in Madam Chair's district. So basically, we are looking to create a regional sports complex that is actually larger than the one that's up in Bernalillo. I don't know how many of you all have been to the Bernalillo soccer complex, but this is actually will ultimately have 7 more fields than that complex. So we're really excited for a couple of reasons. It's going to be a great economic development facility in terms of drawing tournaments. We have a number of folks from the Youth Sports Commission who are really excited about this, including the NMYSSA president and YAFL's president, so Bill and Gloria. But the other thing that's really, from a Parkey standpoint, it's about how serving our community and members of our community, particularly members of our community that are underserved. Well, one of the things that having been a father of a kid who went to Amyville High School and who played club soccer and the kids that were playing soccer there on that particular school team, most of them could not play soccer up in Bernalillo because they couldn't get there. So many of them lived in Commissioner Quesada district and also Commissioner Manacheras district. So part of what this is going to be great for is for the folks at the south end and even in some of the counties going south, these kids will now have a comparable place to play soccer. I mean, highly competitive soccer, highly competitive football. There's also cricket pitches. We have a very active cricket community here and lacrosse as well. So we're going to be serving a number of sports. So it's really an exciting project. Now, to get to the part that Denise was talking about, so I fulfill on that part of the promise to her and Shirley. So we're going to be, the current project is to build the 10 fields that are immediately south of the yellow sets of fields, so which is really what we call phase 2. So there are 6 turf fields, and there's going to be 4 artificial turf fields, which actually is a change since this particular graphic was put together. And what the ARPA funding is going to go for is actually all those little green lines that you see. So basically what we'll be doing is harvesting all the water from the entire project site into those swales that will then actually go to a couple ponds when there's a large enough event. But in the meantime, they're going to be watering all these native plants and trees, which will also function to mitigate the wind, which I don't know if any of you have been up to Mesa del Sol. It's like, for like 3 months out of the year. So in part, what this is meant to do is to bring down, to knock down the wind and make it a much more suitable environment for the kinds of games that we'll be playing up there. So the water is being harvested. It's basically being used to water native plants, and then those plants in turn are mitigating, the wind and other climatic impacts of the facility. So it's a very what we call a GSI model landscape, and it will be the largest one of its kind when it's completed. So we're very excited. We also happen to need about $2 million in budget. So this was, so we can allocate it towards this part of the project and really do a really amazing job with that and be, something that we can all be proud of going forward. So anyway, thanks for your attention. I stand for questions.
Thank you, Ms. Benavides and Mr. Barney. Any questions, discussion?
I move for approval.
Commissioner O'Malley seconds. Any other discussion?
I just want to say I love this model and how it really is sustainable and brings in all of these great environmental elements. It seems really well thought out, and I think it's a great prototype, I think Bernalillo County often is the innovator in technologies like this, so nice job.
Thank you, Commissioner.
I'm excited for it to be on the south side of town. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any in opposition? Thank you. Do pass.
Thank you.
Great. Next, we have Emily Madrid or Rosanna Otero. Yes, Director Rosanna Otero, to present on MDC Master Security Control Systems upgrade and replacement. Great to have you here, Director Otero.
Good evening, Madam Chair, members of the Commission. The Metropolitan Detention Center Master Control Systems are in need of upgrade. MDC was built in 2002, and since that time, over 20 years, we've seen failing systems, which are in need of repair and replacement, which includes the doors, the intercoms, and our badge swipe system. So we're working through a cooperative agreement with Sourcewell, along with Stanley Security, for the installation of all these new systems. So we're asking the Commission to authorize expenditures exceeding the County Manager's $200,000 signature limit pursuant to Administrative Resolution AR 2018-49 for expenditures associated with the Master Security Control System upgrade and replacement. We're also asking the Commission to authorize the County Manager to approve the agreement with Stanley Security and authorization for the County Manager to approve all future amendments. I stand for any questions if anyone has any.
Thank you so much, Director Otero. Any discussion, comments, questions? Great. I move to approve the motion for MDC Mass Security.
Second.
Thank you. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any in opposition? Thank you. Thank you, Director.
Thank you.
Next, we have Parks, Recreation, and Open Space. Again, Mr. John Barney.
Good evening, Madam Chair, members of the Commission again. I have the distinct honor to be the last agenda item before you and everyone else in here gets to go home for supper. So I'll try to make this as quick as possible. I also have the distinct pleasure to present our other regional complex, which is now up there, which is our Tom Tenorio Park Phase 1A construction. I'm here before you to, we're seeking to implement a change order number 1 for Tom Tenorio Park Phase 1A construction. And the motion before you will be to authorize the county manager to approve change order number 1 for the Tom T Park Phase 1A construction for added scope for additional electrical and security systems. And I'll go through those items in a minute. And 2, to authorize the county manager to approve any subsequent change orders to the project. Basically, Tom T is our regional softball complex, but we're also we're adding as part of this project those fields in the upper left-hand corner, which are a series of multi-purpose fields, which will be used for both football and soccer. And again, this is in the South Valley, kind of on the west side, just west of Coors, and just south of Arenal Boulevard. The project consists of those set of fields, as another softball field, which actually used to be located there, which used to be the favorite field where folks would hit home runs over into the neighborhood. So that issue will hopefully be alleviated at this point permanently going forward. Several of us have had to appear before different, on TV in some instances, just to kind of explain the situation. So it'll be great that we don't have to do that anymore. So I'm grateful for that. There was an RFP that was issued, RFP 0040-21-DC in April 2021, and that was to solicit bidders for this project Phase 1A. The initial contract was let to Enterprise Builders, Inc., which was the contractor with the lowest bid, and the contract was approved by you all back in in June on 6/29/21. Agenda item 13846 for a total amount of $2,957,103.71, including gross receipts tax. So this change order consists of 4 items. Conduit and sleeving for future electrical. Actually, there's some electrical that will be going in as part of this scope, but future field lighting for the softball field. Removal of some buried trash on the site. And there's also, we redid kind of the concrete edging and sidewalk configuration around the multi-purpose field so that it would work better. So that's the 3rd item. And the 4th item is to include a roll curb in certain areas around the stretch of roadway that actually is part of that loop road to be included in the project. And the total will be $347,596.58 before tax, $369,973.11 with tax, which exceeds the 10% of the total project. So that's why I'm here before you today. And again, we're very excited to be moving through this project. Construction will be completed in June in time for the Jim and Yeto tournament. And this change order is kind of where we're at right now, and we're seeking approval for the county manager to be able to execute it. So with that, I stand for questions.
Thank you, Mr. Barney. Yes, Commissioner Quesada.
Yeah, thank you all for making this District 2 night. And I move for approval.
I second. Any other comments or discussion? I just wanted to say Tom Tenorio is a staple for so many of us, our families, for generations. And I'm so grateful to see this. It's like the home of baseball for Chicanos. Okay, great. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Aye. Any opposition? Great. Thank you, Mr.
Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the commission.
All right. As everybody runs out the door. Just peace. The next Tuesday, April 12th, 2022, will be our next zoning meeting at 3 p.m. here at Ken Sanchez Commission Chambers. And Tuesday, April 12th, 2022, will be the next administrative meeting at 5 p.m. here also in the Ken Sanchez Commission Chambers. If there's no other business, this meeting is adjourned. Thank you.